What's up, everyone? All right, so I'm sitting here in the green up $14,888.72, but I'm wearing red. What's the deal with that? Now, typically, I don't wear red. I'm very superstitious. If I wear red, I'm going to be red. But yesterday, I was red, but I wasn't wearing red. So how do you figure that? So I did what's called the reverse jinx. I wore red so I could avoid being red, so I could be green. See, this is how you stay one step ahead of those market makers. But in all truth, I wore red because I am superstitious about wearing red, which means as I see my arms in front of me, the whole morning I'm thinking about, man, you are playing with fire. You're wearing red. You've got to be so careful. Being so careful is why I'm sitting in the green today. Because remember yesterday, big red day? What did I have to do today? I had to put on the guardrails. I had to reduce my share size, focus on A quality stocks, A quality setups, and reduce the time of trading. And wearing the red helped me stay in check. It was a reminder, a visual reminder all morning long. So let's look at the stocks I traded. OSRH up $12,227.82, and BLNE up $2,600. VVPR, no trades. Why didn't I trade VVPR? Well, my issue with VVPR is that it's a recycled news headline. So this is the news headline right here, VVPR, in advanced talks on bilateral negotiation of $120 million takeover. But if you look back, that's the same headline that we had back on the 24th. Skyrockets after receiving $120 million buyout offer. So essentially what they're saying is they got a buyout offer. The stock squeezed up on Monday, or it was Friday, all the way up to a high of 437. It then sold off. And now they're saying, hey, we got the buyout offer and we're negotiating. Okay, well, to me, this just felt like a rehashed headline. Honestly, I'm surprised it went up this much, but today I felt like I had to be extra careful, and that was the right move. So I left some money on the table, but I didn't take unnecessary risk. But let's go back to the beginning of the day. BLNE, look at this squeeze. So this started around 6:30, and this thing ripped from $2.50 all the way up to $3.54, up to $4.50 before pulling back. So here's the way I broke the ice on BLNE. This was the first stock I traded this morning, and I got in, let's see, let's go back here. It was just after 7 a.m. All right, so 7 a.m., this thing pops up. Well, it's squeezing up here early. So you get a couple nice pullbacks. So those of you guys who have traded my micro pullback strategy, you know exactly what you're seeing right there. It dips, it pops up, it dips down. My first trade, I actually bought, let's see, what was the timestamp on this? So it was right over here. I bought right down here off of the support of the volume weighted average price. I took a starter position at $3.73 with a stop at $3.63. 4,000 shares, risking just $400. From that initial trade, it bounced up to 4, and I took my profit. It then dropped down a second time, and I got back in. Added back down there, but this time with a little bit more size. It pops back up again, and this time it goes up to 380. It pulls back right here, and I add for the breakthrough 380, and we get a squeeze up to 420 right there. I take my profit. It goes sideways. I'm watching to consider adding back, but I choose not to. Now, I will acknowledge one interesting fact. The MACD here went negative. I traded against the MACD, but I want to show you the 5-minute chart. Where I added right here for the break over 4 at 380, we had a 5-minute pattern. The first 5-minute candle to make a new high. And in this case, I felt like this was a strong enough 5-minute pattern that it was worth overriding the signal from the MACD on the 1-minute chart. I typically would be a little bit cautious about doing that, but I already had a little cushion on the trade from my first dip off of VWAP. And a dip off VWAP is a setup that I like. So I got the dip off VWAP, and then I got the 5-minute setup right here, and that gave me a little profit. Okay, so $2,600 in the bank, in the green. That's a good start to the day, but obviously yesterday was a red day, and the goal today wasn't to try to make back everything I lost yesterday. The goal today was just to have a nice, solid green day. That was it. And a solid green day, a small green day, just a small green day, really. So for me, $2,000, $3,000, maybe $4,000 or $5,000. I wasn't really thinking for much more than that. So then all of a sudden, OSRH pops up. And let me just show you something really fascinating. So this right here dropped at 720. So at 720, the price dropped on this. And I was like, what's going on? And at that same moment, or just basically the same time, OSRH started hitting my scanners. So 717, 718, 720. And all of a sudden it goes from 3. Well, it starts down here at $1.80, goes to 2, 250, to 3, 350, all the way up to 450. And so essentially what happened was traders abandoned BLNE and jumped on OSRH. And OSRH gave us some excellent micro pullbacks. So on the 10-second chart right here, my first entry. All right, so it squeezes up here. I missed that. Popped up here, missed that. Popped up here, bought this pullback right there. That was my first entry right there at $2.81. So got in at 281 right there. That was my starter. Added for the breakthrough 3. We get a squeeze up to 320. I take some profit. And now I'm looking at this pattern and it's just stair stepping up. So on the next dip back down right here, I add back. It goes up again. I take my profit. It dips back down. I add back. It goes back up. I take my profit. It dips back down. I add back. It pops up. Doesn't go back through the high. I get out more or less break even. It dips down. It comes back up. I take a final trade right here for the breakthrough 410. It squeezes up to a high of 440, dips down, pops up to a high of 450, and then pulls back. Now, in this area here, I did not trade it. On this setup, I did not trade after the MACD crossed over. So the MACD crossed into the negative right here, and as it came back up, I said, nah, see, I don't know about this one. The 5-minute is not set up yet. The 1-minute has a red topping tail here, had a little rejection right here as well, which then caused the MACD to go negative. And on the 5-minute chart at that time, I said, the problem is we've got this red shooting star candle right here. I don't think I can do it. So I did not get in for that second curl. And I think that in that case, that was the right move. So those were the two stocks I traded, OSRH, BLNE. Now you might observe OSRH has a slightly higher float, 17 million shares. And it does. However, it's a recent IPO. And so what you may know about IPOs is typically insiders have a lockout period where they cannot sell shares for at least 90 days. Sometimes it's longer. So on a recent IPO, they can trade as if the float is actually much lower than it is because the actual number of shares available to trade is less than the total float. So that's noteworthy. And so then VVPR pops up and I'm thinking initially it pops up and I'm like, okay, here we go. I've got something I can trade. And then I realize it's almost the same exact headline from a couple days ago. And I'm thinking, this actually might not work. I really wasn't sure it would work. So as it popped up right here, it first goes up to 290 and then it drops down to 250. And I'm like, that's a big drop. Pops up to 285, drops back down to 260. Then it breaks 290 and I could have jumped in right there, but I was a little nervous. This was also like 2 minutes before the opening bell. Goes up to 310, pulls back, goes up to 315, pulls back, goes up to 320, pulls back, and then it rips here to 390. And I was like, gosh darn it. Well, that was a clean move. I'll give you that. But now I don't know if I can get in this. It pulls back, comes back up, and you see how it sort of pops and then drops. And then it kind of pops up and drops down. And then it kind of keeps doing that. It sort of keeps popping up here and then dropping down, popping up and dropping down. And it's grinding higher, but it just didn't feel clean. Certainly not compared to OSRH. So I said, you know what? It's 9:35, it's 9:40, 9:45, 9:50. I think it's time to call it a day. I'm green. My work is done for today. And in fact, I made back almost all of yesterday's loss, which was the result of just bad luck. That one trade early in the morning where I caught that big flush. Now, the rest of the loss from yesterday, well, that was my own fault for being dumb and breaking the rules of my strategy. Trading later in the day, trading past my max loss. So now I've got another $10,000, a little bit more than that, to make back. So, it's actually $14,000. So I made back half of the loss yesterday. And the other half, well, I'll just have to keep chipping away at that Thursday and Friday. And that's my own fault. Yeah, I wouldn't have to be in this situation. I put myself in this situation. So now I've got to dig my way out. And I will. There's no question about it. Might take a couple more days. And that'll remind me in those days that I'm continuing to recoup the loss from Tuesday that next time, just walk away. Don't take that final trade. Just walk away. Just call it a day. So, you live and learn, and this is part of trading. No one's perfect. You always have these ups and downs, and even someone who's been doing it for as long as me can still fall victim to frustration, disappointment, and that can lead you into taking some emotionally fueled trades, which is what happened yesterday. But I don't want to do that again today. So the best thing for me to do today is be grateful that I'm up 14,000, because that by itself is much more than I was expecting to get today. And, after OSRH, I kind of was like, all right, is there going to be another one? BLNE went straight up, OSRH went straight up. And I guess you could say we kind of got it on VVPR, but the trade on OSRH was at like 7:30. So, it was sort of a long wait. What time was this? It's like 7:20. So it's sort of a long wait there until the 9:30 opening bell, when basically we got the VVPR news. I sort of thought we would get something at 8 or 7:30 even, 8:30. And because it got so slow, I sort of got to a point where I was like, okay, I haven't taken a single trade since 7:30. Literally, that was the last trade I took, was at 7:30. I traded today for 30 minutes, but I made $14,888.72. So let's do it again tomorrow. All right, so that's the game plan. I'll be back at it first thing tomorrow morning. And by the way, for those of you guys that are tuning in, you may have noticed here, our anniversary sale is now underway here at Warrior Trading. So if you haven't already checked out these specials, I'll put a link in the description and I'll pin it to the top of the comment, that same link, where you can come check out the specials that we have going on at Warrior Trading. All right, so thank you guys as always for tuning in. I hope you are subscribed to the channel, and I will see you back at it live streaming tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. for members at Warrior Trading. Okay, see you guys in the morning. And hey, reminder as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so take it slow and manage your risk.